Welcome to another unit in this Excel course. This time I'm going to talk about how we can calculate moving averages. Well, moving averages is a relatively easy way to smooth data series. So we can see here, for example, I prepared a data series. We have data from 2001 to 2018. If I were to display this data set, for example, I can do something like this. Here with a typical line. So we see it's relatively rough. If I want to smooth this to get a better idea about the overall trend the data is going, that's where I can use moving averages. Well, moving averages, usually I have an uneven number, so an odd number of periods I'm using to smooth this. So we're going to start here with a horizon of 3 periods. So what I can then do is also decide which 3 periods I'm going to use. In most cases you use the midpoint or the newest version. So if I'm going to use the midpoint, I would use for 2002 these 3 values, giving me here one new value. If I go with the newest one, I would assign to 2003 the average of these 2 values. So this would be a bit more back looking, this would be forward and backwards looking. Let's start this with the mid version. So basically I'm just going to do here an average of these 3 values. And then, well, it's a moving average, so we just move this ahead. There's only one thing we need to consider in this context. That's if I use a 3-period moving average, I'm going to lose 1 period in the end, in the beginning, 1 period in the end. So if I'm going with, like, call it a K-period moving average, I'm always losing K minus 1 observations. So 3-period moving average, lose 2 observations. If I go with a 5-period moving average, I have to start here because I need the 2 before this. I have to stop here because I need the 2 following this. So I will lose 4 observations. So the 5-year moving average would be the 5 values here. And again, I will pull this till the end where I still have these 5 observations. Well, maybe you cannot yet see this in these graphs, but let's make a short graph for those 2 as well. Well, if I compare the original data and the moving average with 3 periods, is already a bit smoother than the before. If I use the 5-period moving average, it's smoother still. So you see here in the beginning it's more or less relatively even, then it starts going downwards, in the end it's slightly going upwards. So this tells me a lot about the overall development trends without the upwards downwards zigzag movement I see here. So this is always a good idea if you just want to get an impression how your data in general is behaving. Usually you also stick with 3 to 5 period moving averages, because else you would smooth this too much and you would lose too many observations in the beginning and the end. But still, 3 or 5 periods can also provide you with a decent enough impression about the developments in your data. Well, as I said, moving averages, that's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So that's already all there is to this short session on this part of moving averages. So I hope you enjoyed listening to it. And if you want to see more on this topic, want to see more on Excel, feel free to visit the rest of this course or have a look at the corresponding playlist. I say goodbye and see you next time.